Today we are talking about the man who devoured almost the entire country of France. You might think I'm exaggerating, but hold on to your hats. From eating live animals to guzzling people's blood to eating an entire baby. Allegedly. His hunger was so insatiable, he didn't care about the ethics of what he consumed. And instead of treating this man like a monster outright, they decided to make him a military spy. This is the story of Tarrare. Tarrare was born around 1772 to French peasants. From the start, the man was basically a biological anomaly when it came to eating. He was thin, but his mouth was stretched almost abnormally wide. It was said that he could fit up to a dozen eggs inside of his cheeks, as if he were a chipmunk storing nuts for the winter. You ever had like a pet hamster and they shove like a whole carrot in their little cheek pouch? That's what we're working with here. It's reported that he ate so much it became physically impossible for his parents to support him. Witnesses said that Tarrare could eat an entire bushel of apples and then ask for more. His family eventually kicked Tarrare out because he was literally eating them out of house and home. And I know that some of you people who have had teenage brothers think, okay, nothing special there. Quite literally, he was eating them out of house and home. Not to mention all of the problems that came with his very strange diet. Witnesses said that Tarrare smelled awful. Quote, you couldn't get within 20 paces of him without being knocked over by the smell. And if you're wondering where the smell came from, a lot of people think it was coming from inside of him. Not only did he eat these absurdly large meals, but he also made absurdly large dumps too. Okay, there's no way to put it nicely or politely. His family had an outhouse, and on many instances, there are reports of him literally flooding the outhouse after having his giant meals. That's how big his meals were. There's some speculation saying that he wasn't digesting the food, like there was some kind of digestive GI issue, because he would go to the bathroom almost immediately after he ate, which would account for the fact that he wasn't fat. You might think that this guy would literally have to be the size of a house in order to eat all of this food. But by the time he was 17, he only weighed about 100 pounds, and he was pretty normal looking despite some pretty weird features. We already talked about his extremely wide mouth, but his stomach also apparently became very swollen and distended when he was full, and then after he used the restroom, it became saggy and flappy, like a human pelican or kangaroo or whatever. It seemed like Tarrare had one mission in life, which was to consume, and it got to a point where his family couldn't support him anymore, and they kicked him out onto the streets of France. After being kicked out, Tarrare became a street performer in Paris, where a lot of people surprisingly liked him. French peasants weren't huge on intellectual entertainment, okay? It was pretty easy to impress them. Many of them handed him entire barrels of trash, apples, fruits, bottles of wine, even live animals for him to swallow, and he did it without hesitation. The crowds loved it because yes, it was disgusting, but it was also oddly charming in a, oh my god, what is wrong with you kind of way. Hey, get a load of Tarrare, this guy's crazy. He continued to do this for a while, but without a steady, regular income stream of food, he became kind of miserable. So Tarrare decided to enlist in the military. Tarrare enlisted in 1792 during the War of the First Coalition, and I am not French. I don't know if that has any significance to French people, but I certainly don't know what kind of war that was. Basically, they were fighting against ops in Germany. The problem was, even though Tarrare was getting a steady supply of rations, it still wasn't enough, and it got to the point where generals began to recognize that this wasn't just greed or regular hunger, this was some kind of disability. So the generals of the military even granted that Tarrare could have up to 4 times the typical ration of a regular soldier, and even eating quadruple the amount of a regular soldier, Tarrare still wasn't full. Many times he was found still digging in the trash and through latrines for leftovers and little snacks. I'm just gonna throw it out here, we don't have to unpack that. We can just move on. At some point during his time in the military, he collapsed from exhaustion and was admitted into a hospital. And this is where his story gets really weird. The hospital staff, upon treating him, became unsurprisingly both intrigued and horrified at Tarrare's extreme diet, and they began to run experiments. They started by creating a feast for 15 people and then challenged Tarrare to eat it, which, of course, he handled with no issues. There was not a single hesitation. A huge, giant feast for 15 people, that was like a normal midday snack for this guy. Then they handed him a live eel, which he reportedly crushed with his teeth and then swallowed whole. Just Down the chute. After the eel, they got even more curious and they decided to give him live animals. They started small, like with cats and rabbits. He reportedly would rip live cats in half and then swallow each chunk whole. First of all, you gotta think about the type of strength it takes to rip apart a cat. Alright, a cat, that's a living object. You're ripping apart muscle and bone. I wouldn't say it's easy. Back to what I was saying, he would swallow each chunk of the ripped up animal whole, and then he would vomit up all of the hairs, fur, and bones later, like some kind of cursed owl pellet dispenser. So after examining Tarrare, and after noticing that he was seemingly able to eat quite literally anything with little to no standard, they decided to make him a spy. Military staff decided to make him a secret courier by having him swallow a small wooden box with secret messaging inside. Then they planned on having Tarrare go to one of the French bases in Germany so that the message could be delivered to some of the people who were working for the French military there. However, the plan fell short when Tarrare was captured by German soldiers, to who he admitted that he had secret government intelligence swimming around in that black hole of his gullet, and the soldiers chained him to a toilet until he passed the box with the message in it. The message inside, luckily, was just a test note. Considering it was just a test note and it was nothing important, the Germans mock executed him and sent him home. Germany 1, France 0, Tarrare's stomach, -1. Back at the hospital, Tarrare's behavior deteriorated even further as he became even more desperate and even more hungry. There are reports of him supposedly fighting stray dogs behind the hospital because a butcher shop neighbored the hospital, and he was fighting them for scraps of leftover meat. This is crazy. The doctors even allowed him to participate with bloodletting patients. Bloodletting is where you let out the bad blood of a sick patient. There's not really a lot of science behind it, but it was a practice that was done in the 1700s. They let Tarrare suck these people like vampires, alright? They let Tarrare guzzle the blood from these poor people, which is traumatizing. Imagine you're a patient and you're expecting like leeches or something, and then this guy, Mr. Widemouth, comes in and he's ready to suck you dry. No! At the hospital, he was also reportedly caught sneaking into the morgue attempting to eat corpses. But the breaking point came when a 14-month-old baby who was a patient within the hospital went missing. Everyone immediately looked to Tarrare. And while it couldn't be proven that Tarrare ate the baby, he also reportedly never denied doing it. Everybody knew that that's where that baby went missing. It's almost as if during these hunger fits, Tarrare had a lapse of judgment where when he was hungry, he would eat anything in order to satiate this hunger, whereas after, this may suggest that he did have guilt about the things that he did, which is haunting. Again, that's just speculation, but it is the overall thing that got him banned from the hospital. Tarrare was banished, forced to wander the streets of France, decaying and hungry. 4 years later, after wandering the streets of France, he returned to a hospital. He was sick and dying. And you might think, oh, of course, stomach obstruction, rupture, right? No, tuberculosis. Tarrare passed in the hospital, and the doctors were mortified by the autopsy results. When they opened him up, his insides smelled like an open sewer and reportedly could clear the room. His stomach was stretched to a point of disbelief, taking up most of the space in his chest cavity. And not only that, but his digestive tract and stomach were covered in pus and ulcers. And finally, as a perfect teetotal act of horror, the doctors reported that when you opened the corpse's mouth and looked down into his throat, you could see straight down into his stomach. The man was basically a human garbage chute. So now for the question that everybody's wondering, what the hell was wrong with this guy? Modern doctors have theorized that Tarrare might have suffered from multiple different types of conditions. Polyphagia is an uncontrollable, insatiable feeling of hunger that many people with thyroid problems and diabetes experience. There's also lots of other syndromes and conditions that would cause you to feel insatiable hunger, like the Prader-Willi syndrome. It's a rare disorder that causes constant hunger and poor satiety signals. Some specialists also speculate that he may have had pica, which is a compulsion to eat non-food items out of a place of hyperfixation. Despite all of these modern diagnoses having certain attributes that Tarrare could have identified with, none of them quite hit the nail on the head. None of them explain why he seemed to have very little issue passing inanimate objects and bones and glass and other things that are not meant to be eaten, or ability to rationalize eating living people. Perhaps by some genetic lottery hell, Tarrare was a victim of multiple of these diagnoses, coupled with just a very wide digestive tract, but that seems extremely unlikely. So maybe Tarrare was something else entirely. A once-in-a-history mutation. A man whose biology existed purely just to consume. To this day, we have a lot of witness accounts about people who supposedly came across the infamous Tarrare, but it's one of history's most bizarre cases of human appetite, because due to the lack of documentation and actual scientific practice, I mean hell, we just had doctors feeding him live eels and cats just for the fun of it. We don't have any solid studies to prove what was wrong with him or what caused him to have this appetite, but according to witness accounts, he was a man who defied common biology. So the next time that someone calls you hangry, just count your lucky stars. I hope you enjoyed this freaky little video. If you did, leave me a comment down below. Again, I would love to read it. My name is Melody. This channel is called Melody Ever After, where we do little bite-sized deep dives on all things freaky, geeky, and spooky. So if that sounds like something that would interest you, maybe check out my channel. Until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.